In this video, we're going to talk about David Mamet's exploration of intrigue and identity, Homicide. Homicide is a 1991 crime thriller directed by David Mamet, and it stars Joe Mantegna, William H. Macy, Rebecca Pidgeon, J.S. Block, Ricky Jay, Natalija Nogulich, Ving Rhames, Stephen Goldstein, and more. In Homicide, a New York City detective gets roped into investigating the murder of an elderly Jewish convenience store owner and ends up embroiled in a radical group's mission when he has a cultural awakening. So this was something that was on the Criterion Channel's neo-noir collection, and I am not super familiar with really David Mamet in general, much less his earlier work. I could probably count on less than 5 fingers, I think, how many David Mamet films that I've seen. Now, I've liked all the ones that I have seen, but I just haven't seen everything that he's done, or nowhere near everything, really. So I thought I would give this one a try, and I'm really glad that I did. Mantegna and William H. Macy are both great in this. The whole story revolves around these two. They're trying to take down this criminal, and on their way to do so, they get sort of sidetracked. Mantegna ends up being reassigned to this case, the murder of this elderly store owner, and sort of ends up going on a combination, murder investigation / investigation into his own background, really, or his own cultural heritage. You can definitely tell it's a Mamet film from very early on, or at least the ones compared to the ones I've seen. There's a lot of fast-talking dialogue. There's a lot of language, a lot of obscenities, a lot of racial epithets, things like that. I mean, he's, he gets very raw with his dialogue, and it's interesting to see some of that, because I don't want to say that modern movies are sort of like sanitized by any means. I think that all movies, or I should say movies from all eras, try to rein in a certain amount of that. But David Mamet is like Tarantino, I mean, he just like lets it loose. I mean, I guess Mamet was Tarantino before Tarantino was Tarantino, but the beginning of the film, the very opening scenes are fantastic, has a lot of great energy, really sort of tells you who Joe Mantegna's character is and gives you a background on that. And sort of sets it up for the fact that like he is, in essence, will end up rediscovering himself throughout the film. And I really liked how David Mamet draws you in that beginning part and kind of sets everything up. The climax of the film, I'm not going to give anything away, but the climax of the film is fantastic. And it's at that point that you really realize that he has sort of taken you on a ride, because once the climax happens, it's like all these pieces sort of start to come together to form a picture that you didn't even realize was being formed. And I think that's sort of like Mamet's stroke of genius in a way. It's like you feel like you really know how the story is going, and then at the end, it's like, oh, there's all this other stuff, that was happening in plain view, but you didn't really pick up on it. It's a fascinating film. I really enjoyed it, and I would recommend it to anybody who's like, as long as you're okay with, some of the language and stuff like that. There is like a little bit of graphic violence, not too bad in my opinion, but it's a rough and tumble New York street cop movie, and I enjoyed the heck out of it. All right, so that's it for David Mamet's Homicide. You can catch it as of the making of this video. It's in Criterion Channel's neo-noir series. This is summer of 2021, so it all depends on when you're seeing this, I guess. But You can catch it on Criterion Channel. It is on Criterion through a Blu-ray, so they have the rights to it at least for right now. So I would imagine it'll probably bang around the channel or on Blu-ray for a little while. So check it out, definitely. It's great. And I will see you in the next one.